Saturday afternoon with a high of 86. 30 Bales celebrates the best of what Midwestern cuisine has to offer. Located in Hopkins at the corner of Main Street and 11th Avenue with plenty of free parking. Visit their website at 30bales.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut. He didn't cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, welcome to Friday's edition of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is supported by Minnesota 350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, I'm here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we've been celebrating for over 24 hours now. Thank you so much for stopping in, and it's a good day to be Indian. Oh, wow.
Oh, it is such a good day with the ICWA ruling that came out on Thursday, yesterday. I think everybody I know, everybody I see in Indian country are just smiling, are just giddy with the ringing assurance of sovereignty for our tribes across the United States, but also those concrete protections for our families that ICWA was set up to do. And now we can enforce. Them in the biggest, best way ever.
Yes, and I have to say we really applaud the Minnesota House and Senate and the governor for just in case this went in a bad way, protecting us with MICWA.
Yeah, MIFPA. Yeah, it's MIFPA was about this time last year. I started working on enforcing the Minnesota Indian Family Preservation Act. It's a mini version of ICWA here in Minnesota. And we were really concerned that it was going to, that the ruling would be contrary to what it did rule and enforce ICWA. And so we went through the MIFPA, Minnesota Indian Family Preservation Act, and shored up any areas we thought were weak or deficient. We removed any reference to ICWA, because if ICWA were to have gone away and we had that in our laws, like it has to do this according to ICWA, it has to do this according to ICWA, and ICWA didn't exist, that would totally have wiped out our Minnesota Indian Family Preservation Act. So we removed any reference to ICWA, updated things, and we're still not done. There is still lots of work to be done. In fact, one of the prosecutors on the Colin Brackeen case, Fiddler, he also had a lot of criticism for the MIFPA Act as well. So we started working on that last summer, and I asked our researchers, our nonpartisan researcher at the legislature, to go through and help me with that project. And then on the other side, the tribes had their lawyers and all these focus groups and experts looking at it as well, and looking at how MIFPA is being created or applied in Minnesota, how we needed to shore it up. And then in January, we came together and merged all of our findings into the piece of legislation, that the MIFPA legislation. And we had really good hearings here in Minnesota. We had a lot of people come in, both in the House and the Senate. Representative Heather Keeler carried it over in the House, but we also had Representative Becker Finn and Alicia Kozlowski over there enforcing it as well. And we passed that MIFPA bill in the House with full consent. In the Senate, we had one of our senators would not vote for it, but we had bipartisan support, incredibly. And I'm just relieved we didn't have to rely on that in the end to ensure those safeties for our kids.
Well, I know your sister over the years, and I saw her in Washington, D.C. when this was being, what's the term, aired or spoken on in the Supreme Court, and she was there. She must be totally ecstatic, too.
Oh, my gosh, yes. So my sister is now at the out in D.C. working as the Commissioner for Health and Human Services for American Indians. But before that, she has worked with tribes across the country. She's also been a Indian law lawyer. She's worked with NARF, Native American Rights Fund, and helped them write their statement on ICWA. So yes, absolutely delighted. I think right now she's up in Alaska. So I'm sure they too are pretty excited.
It sounds like someone else is excited there.
I got to pick something up just a second.
Yeah. Wow. That's just a beautiful day. Unbelievable. This is a little more than 24 hours since it happened. And I'm just ecstatic. It's interesting. We had a BIPOC a Supreme Court judge and vote against this out of the 9. It's not shocking, but it's sad.
It is really sad because the protections of our kids of color, especially our Native Americans, but also our African American, our Black kids, also had that kind of terrible situation. But the one thing I really want to point out, I don't know if you've had time to look through the decree at all, but there's one section, and I want to read this. Do we have time for me to do this? I'm not sure how much.
Yeah, we got about 3 minutes.
Okay, so in part 4, it says, often Native American tribes have come to this court seeking justice only to leave with bowed heads and empty hands. I mean, that sentence alone. And then it goes on to say, our Constitution reserves the right for the tribes a place, an enduring place. Oh, I have goosebumps.
Wow.
In the structure of American life. It promised them sovereignty for as long as they wish to keep it. And it secures that promise by divesting states of authority over Indian affairs and giving the federal government certain significant, limited and enumerated powers aimed at building lasting peace. I mean, this is just incredible. And then it goes on to say, in adopting the Indian Child Welfare Act, Congress exercises that lawful authority to secure the right of Indian parents to raise their families as they please, the right of Indian children to grow in their culture, and the right of Indian communities to resist fading into the twilight of history.
Wow.
All of that is in keeping with the Constitution's original design. Now, can you even imagine that is coming from Congress? That
Wow.
message, that affirmation, it just blows my mind. There's so much good in there. There is so much good in that that summary. So I just think that everybody should read it. Everybody should know what it says. I mean, that is the Supreme Court, the highest court of the lands. That is their opinion, and that therefore is enforceable.
That was beautiful. Now, again, who wrote that? The Supreme Court or the Congress?
No, that's what's written in the Supreme Court opinion, the response to Holland Brackeen. It's right in there. Yep.
Wow, that's beautiful. That has to be read all the time. That was
Every
well
day.
written.
Instead of doing land acknowledgments, we should start reading that.
Wow, what a great idea. It
Yeah.
really, that's
Yeah.
no kidding. No kidding. And I was just talking about land acknowledgments yesterday, and that the land acknowledgments are for our white allies. We already know this is our land.
Yeah.
Hey, we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh. We're going to take a quick break. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stay with us.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
On Saturday, June 17th, Metro Transit is making changes to transit service within your community. As they do each quarter, they review and analyze their resources and ridership trends. These service adjustments to routes continue Metro Transit's ongoing work to best serve customers throughout their system with their given resources. A summary of the upcoming service changes and a preview of the updated schedules are available now at metrotransit.org. That's metrotransit.org.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
When it comes to houses, disassembly is our game, deconstruction is our fame. There are some bucks for your project. Better Futures Minnesota is your contact.
Instead of demolishing your home, let us take it apart by hand, and we can find the building materials a new home. Limited funds are allotted in 2023 for Hennepin County residents and public entities to make deconstruction even more affordable. Check out betterfuturesminnesota.com. That's betterfuturesminnesota.com.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Yes, they do. Hey, we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, who we love having on, and it's an extra celebrate. You know, I don't know. I don't want to jinx this, but what a year this has been.
It has been a fantabulous year for Indian country in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Not only has the legislation that we've been able to pass to, support their sovereignty and the Minnesota Indian Family Preservation Act, but we've also been able to enforce some treaty payments. We've been able to give the land back to the Upper Sioux. We've been able to fund our tribes in ways that we've never funded them before. And in funding them, we bring them in as a partner in our state government, in our state authority. So it has been really fantastic. I mean, we've created Indian education for all in Minnesota. We have doubled the amount of money going towards our Native colleges. Minnesota is a good place to be. And if you remember, just a few weeks ago, former President Obama was tweeting about, be like Minnesota. You want to see what looks good? Look at Minnesota. And the New York Times, I believe, did a really extensive article about how this legislative session went. And I personally could not be prouder to be a part of the Minnesota Senate.
Last weekend, I was MC at the Wisconsin Democratic Convention. And let me tell you, Minnesota was brought up a lot by the Democrats of Wisconsin that we really need to be more like that. I listened to all the speeches, and they even had a special guest who is Amy Klobuchar, who ended the convention and came in.
Oh, well, and we need those federal partners. We actually need them to step up a little bit more and help us with this work at the federal level, especially when it comes to education for our kids. The federal government has just been really negligent in fulfilling their responsibilities and their promises to education and so many other things in general.
Right. I know a big thing was when I was in school, Mary, and I think you teaching school, and as you were teaching too, that we were always weren't getting funded for special ed. And it was just bizarre. The government was either late on paying, federal government, or not paying at all. Oh, she's unmuting there. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, please. I know she's got it. She's done this before, but she's not able to unmute herself here.
There I am.
Right.
So sorry about that.
No problem.
Yes, the federal government and their lack of funding for special ed and other areas that we need special ed, EL, and there's always been big promises without any real follow through. And so once again, Minnesota did kick in this year, and we are we plan to fund up to 40% of education when it comes to special ed and EL.
Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. And Haley, that's a game changer because the state has really been underfunded. And when I was a kid, and even into my early 20s, Haley, Minnesota people came from all over the country to see how Minnesota did their education, because we were world class. And I'm thinking, when things were going down in education, in a sense, because we were underfunded, is that, we still have the same teachers, we still have the same brand of students. Right. Why are we going down? Well, it's being underfunded, right, State Senator?
Yeah, absolutely. The class sizes went up, and teachers still had to do the same with less, do more with less. And, you and I both were teachers, and the fact that I'm now in such a position to better fund education in Minnesota, it really speaks through those years of teaching, that experience, but also hearing the current voices of the teachers as they, continue to do the best. And across the nation, we have a shortage of workers, but especially in schools. Well-trained, prepared, dedicated teachers. And so the best way that we can do our best to fund those schools and the classrooms specifically, but also make sure that teachers can make a living wage and have the benefit of the work that they do.
Mary, I went to graduation. I went to graduation a couple nights ago for Harding, and that was my last in-person homeroom, Native American homeroom, when I wanted to wish them well. And then, of course, when they were freshmen, we went into first St. Paul's struck, and then we went back for a day because the governor told us we better get back or we won't have health care. And then they closed the schools. And it was an amazing thing. But that was my last class. And just thinking of those and talking to some of the teachers, they're warriors, the ones that are staying and working and believing in their job. And then we also have people that are really burnt out and that are leaving at 55 and leaving early. And it's a big void. So people are still leaving. But we also got to give credit to the ones that are staying. My goodness, it's unbelievable what's happening.
100%. Absolutely. And I feel for those teachers that, put in many years, but now, in their twilight years are so worn out and exhausted that they, we just haven't been able to give them the kind of, leaving that we would like to because of the, pensions and that sort of thing.
Yes. Mary's grandbaby's crying about that too. Haley, I just think we're trying to leave your generation in a good way, and it's really hard because not only Minnesota's coming back and fighting back with really putting more money into education, but we still have, and I know it affected you in college, a COVID residue of in-person learning and all these things that COVID really mucked up for our students.
Yeah, no, I know. And yeah, it was luckily I was in college when COVID happened. So, I was a little bit more used to the online version, but it was still really difficult being away from my peers and academics and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're social people, and it's like we need to socialize, and it's amazing. So we're still recovering from that, State Senator, is the COVID.
100%. Yeah. Yep. And it's great that we saw pictures of kids going to prom again, and these graduation ceremonies and parties. It feels like normal, and sometimes you're a little afraid to say, "Oh, we're back to normal," because you never know what's going to happen next. So, really looking forward to the good changes that all of the good legislation that we put together is going to produce.
Yeah, definitely. Really excited for the future, and I mean, what's next year? I know you have a lot of parades and fun stuff to do this summer, and a lot of work too, because the bummer about being a politician is you're somewhat always campaigning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky this time around. I don't have to get reelected for another 3 years. When I was in the House, it was every 2 years.
Right.
And so, yes, but we still have parades, and those are kind of fun to participate in. You asked about what's next. Something really exciting that's going to also be coming out is these new standards for libraries for incarcerated, like in prisons and jails.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to participate in this national revision of the standards. And for those that don't know this, I was a librarian, a library media specialist for 20 of the 25 years I was a teacher. And so libraries and literacy is so important to me. And I just saw the kind of the final draft of the report that we had. And there's so many good recommendations and acknowledgement about the work that we need to do to make sure that those that are incarcerated, and yes, they've committed crimes, some of them, the most hateful crimes anyone could imagine, but in my mind, not having access to information and the ability to expand one's mind is really cruel punishment. And so I've been really proud to be on that team, on that group, and the report will be coming out. And from that report, I think we will probably be seeing some legislation that needs to be done.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit afterwards. We got another segment with State Senator Mary Kunesh and her grandbaby, Haley, and me. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas will help you get where you want to go. Located in downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality at Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas. Apply today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
I'm Patty Vasquez, and I'm thrilled to be the newest addition to AM 950's lineup, weeknights at 11 p.m. As a talk show host, comedian, actor, and writer, I'll bring you laughter and insight. Join me as we tackle important issues and empower you to make a difference at the local level. From highlighting talented artists to showcasing inspiring activists, we'll celebrate their work and ignite positive change together. So join me, Patty Vasquez, weeknights at 11 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, this is Robert Pilot. I taught in St. Paul Public Schools for over 25 years, and I want you to join the team and make a difference in our children's future. Right now, St. Paul Public Schools is offering hiring and retention bonuses up to $10,000 for a variety of teaching and classroom support positions for the next school year. Grow in a supportive and fulfilling public school setting. Limited bonuses are available, so don't delay. Apply at spps.org/careers. When it comes to mental health, connections with others can be a way forward. How do you reach out when you need someone? What do you do to support those who struggle? Whether you're struggling or know someone who struggles, see connections as comfort, hope, and joy, like sending a text, sharing a moment, offering a hug, seeing an old friend, seeing your grandma. Together we can find ways to create a path forward. Visit cmentalhealth.org. Visit cmentalhealth.org.
On Saturday, June 17th, Metro Transit is making changes to transit service within your community. As they do each quarter, they review and analyze their resources and ridership trends. These service adjustments to routes continue Metro Transit's ongoing work to best serve customers throughout their system with their given resources. A summary of the upcoming service changes and a preview of the updated schedules are available now at metrotransit.org. That's metrotransit.org.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Wow, they do good work, and they've been doing great work for many years here all over Turtle Island. Hey, we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we're just glowing here, all the good things that the Democrats have done in the state and the House and the governor, and now we've been talking about ICWA and how great that is, and then kind of a little bit about what's coming up, in the near future, and what people are. Yes, and
Yeah.
what people are saying.
Well, I think most of the people that I'm hearing from are very optimistic about this Bracken and Holland opinion. And again, I read about how it enforces our sovereignty. I've just seen over the last 6 years at the state legislature what a difference it has made in the quality and the kind and the quantity of legislation that we've passed that are going to help improve the lives of our Native people here in Minnesota. And, there's that old Wellstone saying, we all do better when we all do better, which, yes, it is true, but we don't all do better when everybody does better. I mean, we still have a lot of very wealthy people, and we still have very, very poor and homeless people. But I think in this case, when our Native communities do better, our states are going to do better. The broader community is going to do much better. And so I'm really optimistic about the outcome of this opinion.
Yeah, and Dr. Stately said Monday he was talking about there is I don't know, of a survey or some kind of thing that when Native communities, if you're surrounding a Native community or in Native communities, when they do better, everybody else in that community and surrounding community do so much better, and it just makes sense. And it's kind of what you just said, Senator.
Yeah, and I remember, if you remember what Mille Lacs Lake, a band of Ojibwe, what their community was like just a generation ago, like when I was growing up, it was just terrible poverty,
Right.
and homes were awful. The education the kids were getting was not conducive to our kids. And so the dropout rate was terrible. The graduation numbers were terrible. And once they had the ability to open that casino and build, create the kind of community that they wanted, that supported them, they reached out and created an incredible school that was open to the public. They wanted to put in a whole new water treatment system and offered the city or the county, like partnership in it. And that community turned them down. And so they went ahead and built a really great water treatment, and the rest of the community had, a very crummy one. But I think those kind of relationships, I hope, are changing as we go forward. We look at the missing and murdered Indigenous relatives and building those relationships with our public safety people. That's only going to help all women, all people that are victims of violence. And so I'm really optimistic. I think we're on the right track.
And I was talking earlier about going to the graduation, and I see some of our young ones really taking off in education. I see it on Facebook. I see it all over. And that, again, wasn't happening when we were young. That's
Right.
something that's really happening, and really excited about our Native brothers and sisters, and that are out there getting an education and pulling up the chair. Because frankly, if the three legislators and our lieutenant governor were not in office, none of these things would be happening. None.
Yeah, I would agree. If anything got done, that would have been a surprise.
Yeah.
And it's not, getting an education doesn't mean you're turning your back on your traditional lessons or your people if you move into positions of business or wealth or education. What's important is that we're bringing it back to the community,
Right.
and helping everybody, lifting everybody up, because when we do better, we do better.
Right.
And so I'm really excited about the way things are turning.
Yeah. And again, excited to see, I had a student, and of course it had nothing to do with me, but I see her in the community. She dances. She's graduating, and she's getting her college paid for, and getting all these, not grants, but scholarships because of how well she's done in school.
Yeah.
That's just has to be applauded in so many different ways. And then, we got people going into trade school, and that's so important now too, because a lot of these trades people are getting old, and the bricklayers are retiring every day, and we need that, and it's a living wage.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's almost more than a living wage. There, if you can get into the trades, and even with an apprentice, when you're an apprenticeship, you're still earning a really livable wage, and it gets better and better as you get more skilled in that area. Minnesota just passed legislation, and we owe it to the vision of Senator to the senator, oh my gosh, Omar Fateh, who was the chair of higher education here in Minnesota, and he passed through legislation to create free college education at our state colleges for kids whose families earn $80,000 or less.
Wow.
So that is going to make a huge, huge difference. And of course, I have been championing Increasing Teachers of Color and Indigenous Act, which puts a lot of money into teacher training for teachers of color. And we put more dollars into that, into the different programs. So there are ways. A friend of mine posted on Facebook, her daughter wants to go to college and become a teacher, and where can we find dollars for that? And I sent her like 3 or 4 or 5 links. It was impressive of the kind of assistance it is for kids and kids of color to get that college degree.
And I don't know if you know this, I might have told you this, but Ogama, who used to do the news here for 2 years, she is in a program in St. Cloud State that's paying for her tuition to be a native teacher.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Yeah.
And she'll be awesome, and she has 2 kids, and she knows her way, and she'll yeah. Oh, there's a little baby. But that's awesome, and there's stuff out there, and I'm glad people are reaching out to you, because if there's a will, there's a way, and there's a lot of ways now. And again, I have to applaud you and our 3 representatives and our lieutenant governor, because again, if something happened for natives in a good way, it would have probably been a mistake.
Like they didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. 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 So how are you tolerating the smoke coming down from Canada, you two?
Well, I know yesterday I did not leave the house.
Oh.
Friday or Thursday was Wednesday was insane. And I don't know if you know this, but Wendy was in New York at the time when it was the worst air in the world. And then on Wednesday in St. Paul, we had the worst air in the world, which, it's sad, because I do my early morning walk. We walk our dogs, it's part of my, keeping active and healthy. And it's really hard, because I'm a former smoker too. And I get a little sore throat and wonder what the heck's going on here.
Yeah, it's been pretty unbelievable. We had our farmers market here in New Brighton the other day, and I was I'm one of the originators of it, so I still volunteer there. And it was so murky and smoky it really affected the number of people who came out for it. So, and today there was supposed to be a big Juneteenth celebration at the Capitol outside. They canceled that. So yeah, it's pretty quiet outside. There are not many people moving around at all.
Well, it's interesting too because, jumping in my car and I've seen some people walking their dogs and I'm going, they must not listen to the news.
Yeah.
Because I can't even walk around the block without having a sore throat.
Wow.
But that's global warming, and those are the things, 400 plus fires from Canada happening and blowing down here, and it's the worst we've ever seen. I think 1980 they had a big fire up in Canada, and it was close to being this bad, but I don't remember that.
No, I think I read somewhere that it's 10 times the average area burned for this time of year. So like, thousands of square miles that have burned. And, I always think about back in the day before colonization, when the ancestors controlled the environment through fire.
Right.
And I wonder, how did they control it? If we can't control it, how did they control it? So I don't know. That's one of those things, unfortunately, maybe we lost. We lost one of those best lessons.
Well, I don't think it was as dry as it is now with global warming and all that. And I think being able to control it, they were able to control it a lot easier. And now I've seen those fires in California in the last year and jumping over roads and crazy stuff like that. But hey, State Senator, thank you so much for coming on as always and checking in and joining the celebration here with ICWA and all the great work that you've done in our legislatures and our governors. So I just can't thank you enough.
Well, I'm just so fortunate to be in this place and time. So appreciate you getting the word out to everyone too.
Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and that was State Senator Mary Kunesh. Up next, Wendy with our Sacred Animal section. Stay with us.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Your Blue Line Extension Project wants to hear from you. We are working on extending the Blue Line light rail into North Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and Brooklyn Park and connecting it to our growing transit system. Tell us about your neighborhood, your business, your family, and what you need from your Blue Line. Learn more and share more of your story at yourblueline.org. That's yourblueline.org.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
When it comes to mental health, making connections with others can be a way forward. How do you reach out when you need someone? What do you do to support those who struggle? Connections can bring comfort, hope, and joy. Find ways that work for yourself and others, like sending a text, sharing a moment, offering a hug, seeing an old friend, creating space to listen. Visit cmentalhealth.org. That's cmentalhealth.org. cmentalhealth.org.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh, we got Wendy here howling, and we are. I want to introduce my awesome and beautiful wife, Wendy. Wendy's been an animal advocate for many, many years, and she's been speaking about our sacred animals and advocating them on Native Roots Radio for almost 8 years now. So I just want to hand over the show to you and say, Pinigigi, thank you for what you bring to the show and bring all the airwaves across Turtle Island, because I learned so much, even on that one. What Friday was that it was Positive Friday, and it was like, hey, these are all downer ones.
They were
Remember that a
downers.
lot?
I do.
I should just find that again.
It was pretty funny though, because we were all like, look,
the next one.
We were all like, okay, this one's going to be a really good and happy one. And then it was like, oh, that's a downer.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. My name is Hanaji Hihani. That means cares for them. And I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. It's always my pleasure to do that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got an email this morning at 10:05.
You were still sleeping.
maybe not. Anyway, it's from Dr. Maureen Hackett, who is the founder of Howling for Wolves, which we really appreciate the support here. So here it goes. I'm going to just read the email that I got this morning from Howling for Wolves. Minnesota legislators turn its back on wolves. This is from Howling for Wolves. Dear wolf advocates, the Minnesota State Legislators' Environment, Climate, and Energy Conference Committee excluded our legislation to prohibit wolf hunting and trapping from the final bill.
The ominous bill?
Yep.
Oh.
The legislator has squandered a historic opportunity to protect one of our most cherished species. We won't let our profound disappointment get in the way of our advocating to ensure the survival of our state's wolf population. The prohibition on wolf hunting passed the House of Representatives by a bipartisan vote with a huge margin of 69 to 57. The bill did not get a vote in the Senate. With only a one-seat Democratic majority, the leadership was protective about what votes their members should take. As a result, the wolf hunting prohibition was excluded from the final omnibus environment bill. Our work at the Capitol highlighted the need for wolf protections to new lawmakers, and the bipartisan House vote showed us which lawmakers are willing to protect our state's wolves. We are heartened to have so many allies in our fight to ban recreational wolf hunting and trapping. Our presence also showed the Department of Natural Resources how much opposition they will face if they propose a wolf hunt. Still, we know it will be a hard fight. The DNR opposed our bill, and they definitely had a seat at the table with the lawmakers who ultimately decided to exclude our legislation from the final conference committee bill. It's fair to ask why an agency charged with protecting our natural resources is so committed to leaving the door open for wolves to be killed for recreation. Last week, the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association said it would boycott its fall's governor's deer opener to pressure Governor Tim Walz to support wolf hunting instead of wolf conservation. This highlights the intense desire of special interest groups to kill wolves. Those who support wolf hunting equate it with wolf management, which ignores the basic biological and social aspects of the wolf that makes hunting them so dangerous and threatens their continued survival. While this is a setback, we put our wolf on the agenda going forward at the Capitol. We will continue fighting to ensure that the wild wolf survives long into the future. Howling for Wolves thanks you for your tireless advocacy. It's because of your work that we got this far, proving that your voice matters. Your activism in this fight for state protections keeps the wild wolf in Minnesota safer. keep on your lawmakers and the governor to protect wolves by prohibiting wolf hunting and trapping and enforce poaching laws. Live and let howl. Dr. Maureen Hackett, founder, Howling for Wolves. So it is a setback, and it is kind of like, really, all this work and that one,
So where is it at now, in a sense? So wolves are not protected, or can they be hunted? Can they have a season? Where's it at until next year?
We're gonna check with Dr. Maureen Hackett, but I believe that they can call for a wolf hunt.
So who would call that? The DNR?
I think so.
Yeah,
we'll have to check with Dr. Maureen Hackett. Maybe tomorrow we can have her call in and give us like what's the next step. What do we do now? Everybody worked really hard. I know a whole bunch of us showed up for Wolf Day. We showed up for Humane Lobby Day, which the Humane Society of the United States put on. Howling for Wolves put on Wolf Day. I mean, we had two really large groups of people going in and talking to their legislators, their House representatives, about the importance of keeping the wolf alive in Minnesota. And it all comes down to that, just a little bit of voting here, and
politics gets involved with what's doing with the right thing again.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly. It's really sad. So again, like it said here, we're going to move forward and we're going to keep on it, and we need to keep on our lawmakers. I would suggest everybody call Tim Walz, our governor, and tell them how disappointed they are that this happened, and that we want him to keep protecting wolves. And we don't want these special interest groups to mandate what's going to happen to the wolf in Minnesota.
Well, I think he supports it along with Peggy, Lieutenant Governor, because he was uninvited to the fishing opener. And that's huge because of his support for the non-fighting or non-killing of wolves. And I think it was something else too. Oh yeah, gun control.
Yeah.
They didn't want him there because these sportsmen want, to shoot stuff with the AR-15 and blow it to smithereens. I don't know.
I know. It's really, I know it's a big mess. It really is. So we'll just wait. We've gone through this before. There's always setbacks. It ebbs and flows throughout the years. And we just have to, move forward and keep fighting and keep, I tell everybody, just figure out who your senator is, your House representative, and just go and meet them. And meet them, call them on the phone, tell them what you care about.
Well, we have these Democratic senators and representatives that are, I don't know, in rural areas, I guess is what you say, and they're afraid to lose their constituents and lose a vote or whatever. So that is really disappointing because, we've been talking about wolves from day one.
I know, for 8 years.
For day one, about protecting wolves.
Ever since we've been on the radio, we've been doing that. Yeah.
And here we are. It's 8 years later, and we're in the same place, and in some states like Wisconsin, a worse place.
Yes, they had a terrible wolf hunt there. It was mandatory. People came out of the woodwork all over from all over the United States, come and shoot wolves.
Yeah.
72 hours. The quota was over the quota. They went over in 72 hours.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be what, 2 weeks?
It was a bloodbath. It was a literal bloodbath for these poor animals.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Wendy, thanks for that update. That's important.
Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing, but we have to just, shake it off and move forward and just work on it. Keep on working on it. That's all we can do.
Well, these updates are important, and I want to thank the doctor for sending out that email too, because it's important for us to stay plugged in and keep on fighting.
Absolutely. We'll have to get in touch with Dr. Maureen Hackett and have her on next week for an update.
Right on. Yes, definitely. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance from Chief Plenty Coops. The ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It's the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office, vote, protect our wolves and all those things. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Now.